isn't. Sorry, no. Oops. No. What's going on? As you can see, I'm not Peter. My name is May Ann, as Ryan has so kindly introduced me already. I won't do it again. But instead of, I will tell you a little bit more about myself as the presentation goes on. I don't know why Ryan spoke to Peter and allowed him to speak for 1.5 hours. That is not a good idea. I love Peter. Peter and I get along very well. But I want to recognize, Ryan, you were telling me last night that this is the first time in a long, long time that all of you have been meeting together. Is that right? As a global conference. So why don't I'll tell you a little bit more about myself, but let me get to know you first. Where are the folk from the Africa office? Can we say hi to you guys? Hi! Okay, wow, that's a huge contingent. Please welcome them. From the Asia Pacific office. Where are you guys? Okay, well, welcome. These are the guys who probably had to fly the least number of hours to get here, am I right? No time zone change difference. Europe and the Middle East. Europe and the Middle East. Oh, wow, okay, two folk. Okay, please make them feel very welcome. They're here at the left side, at my left side. The Latin America and Caribbean folk. All right. Welcome. I realized that the lights have been switched off. Could we get the lights switched on again? Because people tend to sleep in this in this sort of thing. All right. And I know that we welcomed the partnership offices, didn't we? I think I don't work for World Vision. I don't really know where the partnership offices sit in the global scheme of things. So I do want to welcome all of you as well. My name is May Ann, and I work at a company called TRPC. As you can tell from the number of things underneath my name, I'm a victim of the new gig economy. There are lots of gigs which I do, and I'll speak a little bit about that. This is a very interesting conference for me because I was telling Ryan yesterday as I was speaking that I've actually had a lot of history with World Vision myself, personally. I used to volunteer with the World Vision Singapore office for the 30-hour famine. This was way back when I was younger, in 2005 or 2006, and that was a really interesting gig for me because I was helping do the website and do youth interaction with that sort of thing. So a lot of my history has been with the technology application of how to engage people in World Vision's mandate. I'm also currently still a supporter of the World Vision. I have my partner number in case you want to check me out. PN 001297331C, I think. So if you want to check me out, sure, you can go on your mobile phones and I wonder how many years she's been a partner donor at the moment. So I am still a donor and I'm still a partner. So I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for making sure that my money is very well taken care of, that everything is well done in World Vision. Thank you very, very much. The last thing that I want to share with you when it comes to World Vision is that my master's dissertation was actually with World Vision International. It was a technology project that was based on using technology to improve maternal health in Banda Aceh. And that was after the tsunami had hit. It had wiped out a whole generation of doctors, of midwives. And we went in with my project supervisor and we said, what if we gave mobile phones? And this is really way back in the time when you were still doing mobile phones with SMSs and GPRS and nobody had heard of 3G or 4G. And that was a really impactful experience for me because it really showed me on the ground what the staff in World Vision were doing and how you guys were touching the lives of people. And I thought that was such an amazing experience. And as my time moved on, as time moved on, I continued to study technology. I continued to study communications, and that's why I stand in front of you right now. Now I understand that not many people behind can see the screen, am I right?
Yeah.
The screen is quite small, so, oh dear, where did I put the clicker? Thank you. So I will be signposting my speech very, very clearly. Hopefully I've done it well so that you can actually see it very, very big. What I would like to suggest, especially as people were saying, you should be taking notes, is using your lovely little notebooks that you have to take down notes from the big pictures. There are 5 points altogether, and I have sub-points for each of the 5. And I'm going to start with the first, which is thriving in uncertainty. The first picture that I have for you here is from Banda Aceh. This was the most uncertain of all sorts of experiences they could have ever experienced. The tsunami came in, wiped out the whole entire towns. There were no more buildings left standing. There were people around still after the waters had receded. And lo and behold, suddenly there were these ships everywhere. There were ships on top of houses. And this tanker, we went to visit this tanker was in the middle of a field where there used to be a town. And people were like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And we were interviewing people there, asking them, how did you survive? What did you do in all of this space of the uncertainty? The people were like, well, it was tough. There was no running water. So what do you do? Well, there was this big tanker in the middle there, and then we realized that it had fuel, and it had water, and it had electricity, so we just ran electrical wires into it and then started using the toilets inside. I thought, wow, that's how you survive in uncertainty. That's how you thrive in uncertainty. By thinking outside of the box, by not complaining about the thing that has happened to you, but by saying, actually, how can we move forward? How can we look at what God has given to us and say, let's move forward? So this is me in Banda Aceh in 2007. What I'd like to talk to you about, 5 things about equipping all of you in the GIA, how to not just survive in the middle of uncertainty, but thrive in the middle of uncertainty. 5 things. The data-driven challenge to nationality, welcoming you to the new normal. Number 2, priming the future with cryptocurrencies, talking to you about the possible bubble that is going to happen with cryptocurrencies, or is it a harbinger, something that is moving us ahead? Number 3, how can we use technology to eliminate poverty? How can we tackle wicked problems? Number 4, AI, artificial intelligence, the gig economy, and the future of work. We're talking about auditors. We're talking about automating auditors. We're talking about robotic lawyers. We're talking about state-sponsored slackers, or people who don't do any more work. What kind of work do they do then? And the 5th and the final, which is bringing it back to the fundamentals, the pillars of the digital economy and the road ahead. Everybody got this down? Taking your pictures? Ryan kind of preempted me because I tend to do a selfie with the audience, and then he said no selfies, and I was like, oh man, there's no mobile phones. I was like, oh man, that's going to be a foot cramp for my style. Firstly, the data-driven challenge to nationality. Welcome to the new normal. In 1998, this is a fantastic tweet, I love it. In 1998, we were always told, don't get into strangers' cars, don't meet people from the internet. Currently, we are summoning strangers from the internet to get into our cars. That is the current state of how upside down our world is from 20 years ago. This is the new normal. This is where disruption not just disrupts, but turns things completely upside down. Do you see that in your own lives? Do you see that with your kids? Do you see that with your ministries? Do you see that? I see that all the time. This is a slide, I'm sorry that you can't see it, which also shows you in the current state of affairs where it is with the corporate giants. Airbnb the largest accommodation provider, owns no real estate. Facebook, the most popular media content platform, produces no content. Netflix, the largest growing cable television network, it lays no cables. Alibaba, the world's most valuable retailer, it holds no inventory. It has no warehouses, none. Instagram, the most valuable photo company, sells no cameras. Uber, the largest taxi company, no vehicles. What is going on? It is completely upside down. We are not sure what we're talking about anymore when we talk about, are you a taxi company? Yeah, but I don't own any taxi. Are you, what then are you? We're a platform. What's a platform? The whole entire new economy is built on this new normal, which is, quite frankly, very abnormal. It doesn't make any sense to people who have grown up in a world where we're used to, obviously, having a taxi company actually own the taxis, having the cable company actually run the cables. Very, very unusual. Data is the new normal. That's 1.1 for those of you who are taking notes. Number 1.1, data is the new normal. I will come back to nationality, don't worry about it. This is the overview. Don't worry about the overview. I will come back to the main points later on. Technology right now is both the cause and enabler, but also a victim of its own disruption. It disrupts, and then it disrupts itself again. This is very conceptual, but you'll see it again and again. We're using, for example, the dot-com boom. Do you remember in the late 1990s, early 2000s, everybody put an E hyphen in front of their business? E-florist, e-cars, e-commerce, e-shoes. And everybody just decided, okay, that was a fantastic business idea. I'll give you that money. Go run your business. And suddenly it exploded. It imploded on itself. But now we're seeing a different kind of boom again. It is a different type of e-commerce boom. Technology enables that disruption, then it disrupts itself again. The current paradigm, the smart paradigm, is built on data. We're talking about information, we're talking about intelligence, we're talking about integration, and we're talking about innovation. We're moving from data to information, to knowledge, and where we are as believers, to wisdom. I just wanted to put that there. This is a very unusual presentation for me because I actually get to be a Christian while presenting. All of this is built on a core asset of data. So I have some statistics here. Don't worry about not being able to see this. I will get Ryan to be able to make this slide deck available to you. Don't worry about it. I just want to make sure that you understand the one core thing. Digital platforms right now are sitting on a data mountain. Digital platforms are sitting on a data mountain. And this value of this data is increasingly recognized by governments. I'm going to skip through all of the slides. The value of data in digital capitalism cannot be ignored. The ownership is core. Let me try and break this down for you. When you go onto a website right now, there are all of these things which you can log into the website from. Previously, it used to be log in with your email and your password. Now, what do you have? Log in with Facebook, thank you. You've got log in with Twitter, log in with your Google account, log in with whatever is new platform that you have. This is becoming an interesting issue because people's identities are no longer just given by governments. They have an online identity right now, and therefore ownership of that identity becomes a problem. You've got all of these sign-in types, you've got all of these digital identities. Governments are struggling with their own identification systems to make sure that you can verify who you are and you say you are. Who gets to be controlling that information? This is important because of jurisdictional challenges. This is important because people still need to know where you come from. But what happens when you take away that idea of nationality? What has happened, this is 1.3, is governments bump up against a lot of these private companies when it comes to the ownership of data. Let's say you have country A. I come from Singapore. Singapore asks Microsoft, which is based out of Seattle, for information on an email address that's on Hotmail, for example, which is owned by Microsoft, about somebody who is a suspected extremist who is a national security threat. And that person is a citizen of Liberia, for example. What happens? We, technically speaking, as a country, should be able to connect directly with another law enforcement agency and say, we believe this citizen of yours is a threat. Can we have some information, please? But now the data on that citizen, that data on that person is no longer controlled by the government that, inverted commas, owns the citizen. It's now controlled by the private company, by the private corporation. How, therefore, can we start to look at nationality? Nationality is really being challenged at the core of it. And if you're doing an audit, for example, when it comes to deciding where this person belongs to, it becomes very tricky. This is not a new problem. I have a friend, and we were traveling, where were we traveling? We were traveling to Malaysia together, and this was for a business trip. He holds two passports. He holds an American passport and he holds a Sri Lanka passport. And every time when he goes into a different country, he's got to decide which passport he uses. He said, well, sometimes you go to India, it's easier to use the American passport, but if I go to Sri Lanka, obviously I use the Sri Lanka passport because it's just easier, nobody questions you. And that's something which we know of is an existing workaround. We haven't actually come to the point where we've solved this for the digital age. And this is one of the challenges which governments are struggling a lot with. And as a global organization, I believe that World Vision is probably at the cusp of actually questioning that if you've not already started. By the way, if you've got questions, please just raise your hand and stop me anytime. What has happened as a response is antitrust concerns, anti-monopoly concerns from the government. Our governments have also sought to restrict data flows. No, we don't want any more information on our citizens going out of the country because we can't control this sort of requests. So what has happened? In South Korea and Japan, the control of consumer data by Facebook and Google has raised some anti-monopoly concerns. This is South Korea and Japan. This is already happening. In the EU recently fined Google a whopping US $2.7 billion for favoring its own shopping comparisons service over rivals. It's not fair. This is an anti-competitive stance that you've taken. In Germany, the cartel office is examining charges that Facebook bullies users into agreeing into terms and conditions which allows the company to gather data on user web surfing activities. Don't monitor my citizens. We know they're your users, but they're my citizens. How can I protect my citizens? I got up this morning and I switched on the TV as well, and I saw that France, and I might be wrong because I just glanced at the TV, France seems to be suing Google and Facebook as of today. I saw that big news. I'm not quite sure what it's about. I suspect it's one of these reasons. In China, what they've chosen is that they want to control the way that data flows across its borders. What it's done is try to ensure that restrictions play an economic role, meaning that we don't want Facebook, we don't want Google, we don't want anybody. Why? Because we want to build our own economy. So what has happened, a lot of people have pointed to this actually as a great economic strategy. We're going to close our borders to everybody else because we're going to build our own Alibaba, we're going to build our own Tencent, we're going to build our own, it doesn't really matter what brand, we will build our own internet. Thank you very much, the rest of the world, we will do it ourselves. I think China has been fairly successful at doing it. Other governments right now are looking at that and saying, actually, sounds like a good idea. Maybe we should do it ourselves. We should have our own Alibaba. We should have our own Google. We should have our own Facebook. Why not? China's done it. We can do it as well. How does that impact people of that country? When we talk about things like SME enablement, when we talk about things like connecting the next billion people to the internet, if we connect them to the internet but don't give them the tools to plug into the global marketplace, for example, is that still worth it? What are they plugging into? These are questions which we have to ask. But that being said, so I painted the Googles and the Facebooks of the world in a very negative light. That being said, 1.4. I think that there are an increasing number of platforms which are realizing that they need to partner with governments and they have a social responsibility to ensure that digital services, citizen services are met and solving urban problems. One of the most obvious ones is Facebook's safety check. And I personally, I mean, have you guys had friends and family in places where there have been natural disasters or there's been a political attack and you immediately log into Facebook and I wonder if he's checked in and that they're okay? Facebook has this function, check on your friends, check are they okay? Because you can actually go in, if you're in an affected area, if you're in in an area where there's been a bomb attack or there's been an earthquake, you can actually mark yourself as safe. That's something that Facebook didn't have to do. It has no imperative to do it, but it felt an ethical responsibility. And this is where Mark Zuckerberg actually said, during the Paris attacks, we've activated safety check. If you're in Paris, you can mark yourself safe or check on your friends and family. Private companies are actually trying to help citizen services in this way. It's not that they're completely bad, but the question is, are they completely good? So, when it comes to this new type of data nationalism, who owns the data? We're moving from the concept of a citizen to a user. We're moving from a concept of a citizen, which is how governments view people, to a user, which is how corporations view people. And that world is going to come crashing against each other if it hasn't already. And I've given you enough examples on how it has already started clashing. Governments are realizing that citizen engagement is being lost to the companies, to the private companies. How are the governments going to respond in this data-driven world that is threatening the fundamental role of the government? Dear government, if you can't even tell me whether, if your embassy can't even tell me whether my family is safe, why do I need to go and check Facebook in order to make sure that I know whether my family is well or not? That's ridiculous. You're my government, I pay taxes. Shouldn't I have the right to know? Shouldn't you be on the case? There's a bump up in the role of the governments there. Two ways in which governments can respond. Number one, an assertion of power, control. I take back control. The second is cooperation. Governments need to leverage these global flows to fulfill their role. The first role, which is taking back control. The nationalization of companies. Oh, you're doing such good work that you're almost like a company, you're almost like the government itself. Okay, well, you know what, we'll just nationalize you, you have no choice. Let me share with you what happened to a website called onemotoring.sg in Singapore. It was a very interesting website because it was started by people who own cars, and it was literally at that point in time in the late 1990s, a place where you could do all sorts of links, where you could find all the links to renew your license, to make sure that you could register for a new vehicle, that you could pay your fines online. It was literally a user-generated website that gave you all the links to the government website, which, quite frankly, at that point in time, wasn't fantastic. And the government saw this and said, you know what, this is fantastic, this website is really good. So they went in and they bought the website, including the whole entire team that was running the website. That's one of the responses. Assertion of power. Basically, let's just buy the whole entire thing. I've got an example of China's social credit system here, where China has developed its own social credit rating system, which will be rolled nationwide in 2020. It will gather information to rate people on their credibility and trustworthiness online. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's going to be an interesting experiment. But China's largest digital companies, Alibaba and Tencent, will be given significant stake in the project, which means that user data is no longer going to be protected as citizens, but is basically just going to be taken over as citizen data. An aggressive assertion of power. That's what we're seeing. The second is legitimizing the government's role. And the country Estonia is often given as an example here, where the government has realized that all of this e-stuff, all of this online citizenship, we're not quite sure how this happens. You know what? Let's co-opt this idea. Let's build out this idea. And they've come up with this thing called e-citizenship. How many of you are e-citizens? I'm not sure whether Singapore will allow me to be an e-citizen, which is why I haven't applied just yet, but I hear that it's actually quite an interesting program because they've decided that, you know what, this idea of borders, physical borders, shouldn't limit people participating in our economy. We want more people to become Estonian citizens. We want to grow beyond our borders. So we're giving away e-citizenship. You can be a citizen, you don't have to be here, you just need to be a citizen, apply, and you pay the fee, and that's it. How will this impact Estonia's preparation for the future, where if this happens, nationalism and your national identity becomes less and less important? I don't know, but it seems that they're doing pretty well. I think a lot of people, I think Peter is actually a resident of Estonia. I'm not too sure. Localization requirements will undermine private sector performance that contributes to government revenue. This is what I was telling you a little bit earlier. If I see across the world that private companies are taking my citizen data and storing them, oh, you know what? I don't mind if you do it. It's okay, Facebook. It's okay, Google. If you do it, it's okay, Microsoft. If you do it, but you have to store all of your data in my country. It's okay, World Vision, if you have donors from different places. It's okay, but you have to store all of that information in our country, in the country that they're from, and it can't be moved. You can't email it to people. You can't share it with other people. How's that going to play out? It will undermine not just private sector performance, but it will undermine any international organization's performance. In this case, it undermines the government revenue. So what happens is that we're seeing limits of data access. People say, no, we don't want to have all of this data being accessed everywhere. A lot of times, the rationale behind it is privacy, data protection, cybersecurity, or protectionism. They're saying data can't flow across borders because we want to keep the data private, we want to protect data, we have cybersecurity concerns, or they do the China argument, which is that, oh well, don't move the data, but you're not allowed to do it because we want to build our own economy. And that's really a problem, because a lot of times these policies undermine the objectives that it wants to achieve. You want to have stronger data privacy, but you put it in a data center which is not really protected because you want to have it in country. You want to have cyber security, but you put it in a country, in your own country, when you know that your cyber security people, your cyber security executives are not up to global standard. That's really a problem. And this affects businesses. It affects businesses by limiting cross-border transactions. Transactions can't move across borders. It limits companies and people's ability to use cloud computing. It blocks access to the latest digital tools and services, including companies' ability to further use cloud computing and data analytics. And it especially hurts SMEs. It limits access to global markets for SMEs. So, this is the end of the first part. I've got 3 questions for you to think about. How would data as a new normal shape the regulatory landscape that you're all working in? Things like data ownership, things like data access, things like anti-competitive behavior of digital platforms. Second question, what are the costs and benefits of digital nationalism or digital liberalization? What's the way forward to it? Should we protect and move more into citizens concept? Or should we move into more of a users concept and forget about nationalism? Thirdly, what data types do you think governments should protect and nationalize? Surely there's some types of data that is more important than others. In your work, what do you encounter? What do you work with that you think actually should be that type of data? And how will the nationality of data be preserved in the future? Should it be preserved by the state, by the nation, by the market, or should it be both? Some questions for you to ponder. The second part 2, priming the future with cryptocurrencies. Okay, here's where I'm going to do some audience participation. I am, as you know, a donor of World Vision. I sponsor a child, and you can see my pledge number there. For the number of times I said data in the first part of the conference, I'm going to pledge 1 more month of support for World Vision. I want you to look underneath your chairs right now. If you have a box of Singapore cookies underneath your chair, you're going to be my ledger. You're going to tell me how many times you think I said data. Okay, can we see who has got? I've got 4 boxes. Oh, there, thank you very much. We've got 1 auditor there. We've got another auditor there. Thank you very much. 2 more? Check the chair beside you if you've got a blank chair beside you. No? Did somebody take them already? All right, I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna ask. Okay, don't worry about it. We'll look for them during the break. I'm gonna ask my ledger here. How many times? Can you introduce yourself first and where you're from?
I'm Rhonda from the Philippines.
Hello. How many times do you think I said the word data?
So many times.
Again, this is how many months more I pledged for support of World Vision. I do a monthly pledge support for a child, obviously. So the number of times that I've said data within the first time. Just give me a guess.
Yes.
She's looking at her notes. I don't think that she was keeping track.
30?
30.
30. Okay. Rhonda from the Philippines says 30. Thank you very much. Who was the other person who had the box?
Sure. My name is Gerardo Carstens, and I'm from Mexico.
Gerard from Mexico and Gerard from Mexico. Oh, we've got another one. Okay. Mexico. So Gerard, how many times do you think I said?
100.
100. Okay, thank you. Gerard says 100.
My name is Tuan from World Vision Vietnam. I estimate that you talk about data about 24 times.
24. Thank you very much.
Nobody found the last box, right? It's very, that's very disturbing. So we have 4 guesses. We've got people who've said that I said data 30 times. Is it Rhonda? Rhonda 30 times. Gerard said 100 times, and Tuan said 24 times. That's very specific. I can see a hidden agenda there. It's about 2 years, so we'll just make her pledge for 2 years. I am a supporter of obviously the World Vision Sponsor a Child program. As you can see, I've got a couple of pictures up there. I sponsored a child from Myanmar, from China, and the flower on the right side, I think I left the photograph in the office and I didn't have time to go back and get it. That's my current child from India. What happens when we talk about cryptocurrencies is we talk about them in the terms of blockchain. And I'm not sure how many of you understand what is blockchain, and I know that you have a session on blockchain that's coming up. I wanted to do this exercise because blockchain is something like this. It's a ledger. It's a distributed ledger system which tries to verify a transaction against people who are across the world, against other users. So what happens is I have pledged, for example, if I have said that I will pledge 36 months of support for World Vision, what happens is that I will have, you can check whether or not that is correct by checking against all of these ledgers. So obviously our ledger here is not very good because we've got some conflicts here. We've got 24, we've got 30, we've got 100. So this is an obvious error. If it's an obvious error, that transaction cannot be completed. Cannot be completed because the ledgers don't align. Now, in blockchain and in digital ledger systems, usually it's 1 or 2 ledgers which may have some problems with that. So imagine it's not just 3 people here, imagine it is actually 100, 200 people, or 200 other ledgers, which check against each other. She said that she pledged 36, is that correct? Is that correct? Is that correct? Everybody's got to agree that it's 36 before the transaction actually gets through. Okay? This is a very simplistic explanation of what blockchain is, of what digital ledger systems are. You'll have further talk about it later on, but I just wanted to give you a quick primer on what we're talking about as we enter into this part 2 where we're talking about cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies are important because blockchain, what we're talking about, is the core of transactions moving forward. It's really about trust. If I've said that I will pledge 36 months of support for World Vision moving forward, you need to trust that I will do it. How do you trust that I will do it when on the internet nobody knows if you're a dog or not? I could just be saying that. I could be user UN2582. And I would just say that on Facebook. I would just say that. How are you going to verify that? How are you going to hold that person accountable? What we're happening... Sorry, what's happening? Did you want to take another picture of the dog? What we're seeing is, number 1, cryptocurrencies and the underlying blockchain technology, it is currently right now, this is what's happening. Currently, it is enabling invisible transactions in the financial services sector. So this is where we are right now. It is enabling invisible transactions, meaning that it doesn't need to be verified by people in the first instance, and it can be done seamlessly and smoothly. Second, the benefits, features, and capabilities of blockchains have transformational impact across all sectors. So right now, we're seeing it in cryptocurrencies and we're seeing it in the financial services sector, but it can be, this technology can be applied to a lot of different types of sectors. Question number 3 is a little bit more scary. What happens when everybody starts using blockchain technology and speculation becomes normal? This is a really interesting point. I'll come back to it. And the 4th is regulators are forced to have conversations about what and how to regulate all of this. So 2.1, cryptocurrencies and the underlying blockchain technology enables invisible transactions in the financial services sector. I'm sorry that this slide is a little bit small. I wasn't quite expecting this setup. But let me just run you through all of this. In the first instance, this is the application of a global spreadsheet with blockchain technology. What do you have? Authenticated identity. It'll allow you to verify that that person doing the transaction is really the person that is doing the transaction. It'll allow streamlining. Fees for bank fees are currently being reduced. There is a lot of increased trust and transparency for those of you who are doing anti-money laundering and know your customer compliance requirements. I think that's massively important. The risks are reduced. The slide here says is eliminated. I'll say reduced, as there is no single point of failure. It's not like I have a digital record with only 3 people to verify against. This is a lot of other ledgers which you have to verify against. It reduces complexity because the compliance required is a lot less when you just rely on this one technology. The real-time transactions reduce the settling time. There is no more need for middlemen. There is no more a need for you to use somebody else in order to do the transaction. You can do the transaction yourself. Why? Because firstly, it's enabled. Secondly, because you know it can be trusted. And finally, the cross-border transactions occur seamlessly for both consumers and multinational organizations. We've got all of this currently in the financial services sector. What happens when we use this idea of blockchain technology across all of the different sectors? Think about it. This is application in the different sectors. In the first bubble there, you have enhanced credibility of educational transcripts for career and development. We have an increasing number of fraud cases where people have applied for jobs and saying that they graduated from this particular university or other. We've seen that, right? And we've all realized that, you know what, as the HR director, it's almost impossible for me to be checking every single academic accreditation that comes in. So I'll just do a sampling test and check on X number of people who apply just to do my verification checks. If we can trust that, imagine how much time it will save. If we can trust that, imagine how much faster we could build out career development and academic accomplishments. We could do that, and we could basically be distributing this really, really quickly. Secondly, farm-to-table traceability of food products and supply chain audit. This increases food security and prevents contamination. One of the projects which I was talking about with one of my potential clients was this idea of the halal food chain. And it was a reimagining of the global food and logistics flow as they were redoing their processes, saying that actually we need to make sure that that food actually doesn't get contaminated by other things. We also right now in Singapore, I think in Asia, we have a listeria food. I think it's a pomelo or it's a grapefruit that has been contaminated by something or other, and it's got to be recalled. With blockchain, if we can trace that back, we can almost be very certain to do proper recalls of food. We can make sure that we know which farm developed that food. We can have traceability. That's really, really core. The third bubble, digital voting. Yesterday, I think, yes, Russia went to the polls. How can we make it better? How can we make it more secure? How can we make it faster? Digital voting. Property transfers and land ownership securely and accurately facilitated. We have a lot of land disputes still within the developing world. People who are claiming that places are theirs when it's really not. How can we have proof of transaction? How can we have proof of ownership? If it's built on blockchain, it's less likely to have a dispute happen. We've got other things as well. We've got real-time health records, which are more accurate. We've got application of birth and death certificates. We've got enhanced digital rights management for music. We've got better tracking for energy. We've got transparent certification for diamonds, for example. And I'll give you some examples of real companies a little bit later on. See how we're doing for time. Governments currently are beginning to reimagine national and global financial systems using this technology. In Singapore, there's this project called Project Ubin, where they're trialing a couple of things. One of them, which is a core thing, is the tokenization of a digital Singapore currency. I don't know how they're going to be doing it, but that's something which they're thinking about. Can I just transfer money to you as an e-currency? This way, I don't need to, number one, carry currency. Number two, that's another way in which I can increase the security of travelers around. You don't need to carry a huge wad of currency every time. And if it's verifiable, then it's a trusted currency. Imagine if a country were to do this and get into that zone in the first instance, that they could very well become the next global universal currency. In Japan, there is a consortium of 47 banks, and they've partnered with a company called Ripple. There is now real-time interbank transfers, which has, and I kid you not, it has reduced the settlement time from 3 to 5 days to do a settlement to 10 to 15 seconds. 3 to 5 days to 10 to 15 seconds. Imagine the efficiency ratio there. That's crazy. So that's for the financial systems. That's what's been going on. In the blockchain across other sectors, in New Zealand, we're actually seeing this agricultural transactions from paddock to plate. I have a couple more slides following. Yes, sir. Oh, that's it. Oh, sorry, then. My bad. I was up till about 3 doing this. Australia, agriculture transactions from paddock to plate. I have a couple more slides which actually explain this a little bit more. In the Republic of Georgia, you actually do have the land transfer mechanisms which are already built on blockchain technology. This has reduced, again, the transfer of property transactions from 1 to 3 days to several seconds. It saved up to 90% of operational costs. So now what they're doing is that further streamlining is going on. So these are the background slides, which again you guys can read about a lot more. I told you that I wanted to talk about 2.3 because it was very interesting. What happens if speculation becomes normal? When you give people access, direct access to that money, when you give people direct access to fast transactions, remember again, reducing from 3 to 5 days to a couple of seconds, what happens? The markets actually become very more reactive. What you see here is Bitcoin's 3-month roller coaster. It goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down. Everybody's seeing Bitcoin and thinking, oh, it's a very dangerous currency to be investing in. It's a very dangerous asset to be investing in. Well, this is not something new. What we had in 1636 to 1637 was what we call the tulip bubble. How many of you knew about this? Apparently, in 1636, there was a great demand for tulips, like the flower, the bulb. And this is the cost, okay, that it went up how many shillings or however much it was. It was crazy. It went up, it went down. It was a bubble. I was fascinated by this because, tulips, who knew they would be so popular. But you can see that tulip mania mimics the dot-com boom, mimics the Bitcoin boom. Is this that new normal? Is this what we're going to see from now on? Anything that comes into play with the digital aspect of blockchain is going to be super reactive. And this is going to be the new normal. The fluctuations are the new normal. What happens then? Are we prepared for it? Because it kind of means that we'll be glued to our computer screens all day just monitoring things and making sure that when we build to last, we need to make sure that we take into consideration the fluctuations as well. So the bubbles, these are what we call bubbles. These bubbles bring high visibility, they cause market impact, they force regulators to address public concerns. What is the government going to do about blockchain and Bitcoin? What is the government going to do about all of these people who are speculating? What is the government going to be doing about putting in some checks and balances for these financial coins that have come up? What you need to know is that there is a need to distinguish between the underlying technology, again, the technology being the digital ledger, and the speculation of the actual asset, the Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. The regulators, what they'll need to know is that they should be looking for this record, this immutable record, this trust record, and using it for the good of the citizens. This is what they should be focused on. How do we use this for the good of our citizens? They need to have conversations about how and what to regulate. So, to give you an example, right now there are these initial coin offerings, ICOs. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you may not have heard of it. It's literally a product that you can invest in, and right now people are actually using it as a way to raise funds. I need to start a company, you know what, I'll come up with an initial coin offering. People can buy my coins, and that's basically the money that I'll use to be investing in my company. We're seeing some regulators actually start to regulate that area already. Where you need to be aware of is, what if somebody, like a board member or one of your constituents says, hey, actually, I know a great way of fundraising for World Vision. How about coming up with a World Vision ICO? It's a development initial coin offering. Okay. What are we talking about again? Are we prepared for this? Do we even know what it is? That's something which I would love to leave with you. Think about that, because it is a new way of fundraising, and a lot of the venture capitalist discussions are going on on whether or not this is a good way of fundraising or not. Think about that bubble that we've got here, and think about the new way of fundraising. We've also got regulators also asking about what do we need to regulate, how can we regulate it. If it's anti-money laundering, if it's anti-counterfeiting, we've got a lot of work that's been going on, especially with the verification of identities, the verification of transactions using blockchain. So regulators right now are forced to have conversations about what and how to regulate. Are you prepared to enter into those conversations? Should we be going in to talk to them sensibly about these are the requirements, these are the compliance requirements, these are the risk management requirements for an international NGO. This is what we need. This is our situation. So, end of part 2. Key questions. How do regulators across jurisdictions work together to enforce transparency requirements about wallet ownership, where you keep your coins, where you keep your bitcoins, without shifting the issues to countries where regulations are not so strict or enforced? So regulators like to make sure that there is cross-border transfer, cross-border flows of data, especially when it comes to money. But how can you enforce transparency requirements when everybody's not on a level playing field? Secondly, how can regulators balance the cost of not regulating cryptocurrencies? Basically, the regulators saying, this is too hard, don't want to do it, enough, with the benefits of fintech innovation and the widespread use of blockchain technology. This is coming along. There are regulators who are going to say, no, I don't want to do it. There are regulators who are going to say, yes, we're going to absolutely want to be doing it. The third question, taking into account that national digital currencies may create a single point of failure, which is the blockchain technology. How do governments ensure cybersecurity? How can we help to make sure that we're part of that discussion? Because people doing transactions are the people right at the forefront of that question. Part number 3, attacking wicked problems, using technology to eliminate poverty. And this is where I'll give you a couple of examples on how technology is already helping with technology. When we say wicked problems, what do we say? How do we define it? They're difficult to define, they're socially complex, there are often multiple stakeholders, the issues are interconnected, data on the problem is often contradictory or incomplete. Sometimes the solution to the wicked problem is costly. Sometimes the solution can't be tested without the actual implementation. Sometimes the solution may cause new problems. Sometimes there's no end to the time frame. I'm going to tell you a story right now about my kid in Myanmar. And she was the first kid that I actually sponsored. And I was very happy, and as you can tell, I actually went to Myanmar to go visit her because I took up the offer of the Singapore office to basically bring me to meet my child. So I met with her, and I sponsored her for about, I think, the better part of 5 to 7 years. I'm not too sure. Well, you guys can probably tell me a lot better than I can. And I was very happy. I was really hoping that she would complete the term for her area development program and that she'd graduate and then she'd go on with a better life, right? About a couple of years ago, when I got this letter, and it was a heartbreaking letter, it said that, I'm so sorry, but your child, we've had to terminate your child's participation in the program because she's been going out to work. We've had to terminate it because despite multiple times of counseling, both for the parents as well as for the child, she still insists on going out to work. And she's 14 years old. And I was heartbroken by that because I was like, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help her get a better life, right? Isn't that what all the donors are trying to do? You want to be investing in this so that people have better lives? Hope for every child? And yet we're seeing this is a wicked problem. It's not just one thing that makes her stop school. It's not just one thing that makes her go out to work. She doesn't have a father, because her father apparently disappeared when she was born. Her mother is ill. She stays with her grandmother. The area doesn't have a lot of economic activity, so therefore she's actually had to go out to work in order to sustain her family. It's a wicked problem. It's a problem that is long-term. It's a problem without just one solution. And it's a problem to which I don't have the answer to. Wicked problems. How can we therefore use technology to eliminate poverty? And I'm not saying that technology is the solution. I work in technology, but I also have a foot in the development world. It is not the solution. It is one of the many tools in your arsenal that can help eliminate poverty. So what are we talking about here? 6 things. Ending extreme poverty through technology has its own challenges because poverty has a degree of wickedness, which I've just covered. Poverty, right now, is not declining fast enough. I used to work for the World Bank. We've been fighting poverty since the beginning of its inception. Still not solved yet. In fact, we made it a little bit harder. Why? Because it used to be that poverty was defined as people living under $1 a day. Now it's increased. Why? Because of inflation. Now it's under $2 a day or whatever the factorial is right now. Poverty isn't decreasing fast enough. The third, technological progress is showing a difference between fast-growing economies and slow-growing ones when it comes to technology use. The fastest-growing economies use technology, the slower-growing ones, not so much. Technology trends need to align with the challenges to reap the benefits. We shouldn't be using technology for the sake of technology. We shouldn't be using technology just because it's there. We should be aligning them with the actual problem. That's number 4. Number 5, and this is where it hits, where it hurts a little bit. Application of digital tools is scaling. We are using technology to help alleviate poverty, but our adaptive capacity is lagging. We don't know quite how to implement it just yet. Number 6, technology is, thank goodness, it is actually transforming the lives of the poor across sectors. We've got agriculture, healthcare, finance, education, government services, and energy. First point, 3.1. How can we actually use technology to solve poverty? What we're doing is I'm mapping out how technology is supposed to be working. Technology and the internet is supposed to unlock access to information, unlock access to networks, unlock access to markets, unlock access to everything. So that's number 1. Number 2, it's supposed to allow people to realize the opportunities which can be taken when it comes to technology. It allows students to go online to learn a lot more, achieve your potential. That's what it's supposed to do. Number 3, it's supposed to empower communities. You're supposed to be able to be using technology to be putting that energy of your community, connecting it with the global community, and moving ahead economically. And 4th, it's supposed to build security and sustainability. We talked a little bit about the security of transactions. We talked a little bit about the authentication of the identities. That's what it's supposed to do. But right now we're seeing that poverty continues to be a wicked problem. It is complex, it is multidimensional, unclear, and unchangeable. You've got your notes open right now. Think about things that you're working on. What are some of the problems which you think are unbelievably hard to solve? What do you think of the people whom you're working with? What are some of the problems which you think are complex, multidimensional, unclear, and unchangeable? It could be the big problems, it could be small problems. I'd encourage you to write it down, and during your breakout sessions later to be sharing that. The United Nations has tried to solve it. We've tried to overcome it with the World Bank as well. World Vision is another step along the way to solving the global problem of poverty. There are lots of approaches that you've taken. This is from your drop-down list of the website. I hope I've gotten it right. Yes, thank you. Perspectives have changed and continue to change, and this is terrible as a problem because it means that the ending point shifts, the goalposts shift. It is problematic. I spoke a little bit about the first point earlier. The evolution of the income poverty is based on a new international poverty line at $1.90 per day. It used to be $1 a day. You're like, man, we almost hit our target. It moved again. This sucks. It's terrible. I thought we were almost there. Now we've got another 90 cents to go. Secondly, the assessment of person equivalent income poverty is a new indicator that combines the incidence of poverty, that means when poverty occurs, with the depth of poverty. A lot of times we talk about this idea of we don't want to give a man a fish because he eats for a day. We want to teach him to fish so that he can eat for a lifetime. We talk about that. This is exactly another indicator which has come up to measure the incidence of poverty, the fact that the man cannot eat for a day, with the depth of poverty. He doesn't know how to fish. It's a new indicator. Harder to measure and harder to say, we've achieved this. How do you measure this idea of teaching somebody to fish? We went to the Banda Aceh and we talked to a lot of the midwives who were there. And they said, okay, well, we have a problem because we can't communicate with the main doctors in the island, not in the island, sorry, in the mainland, when we want advice. So my project with World Vision International was, all right, we'll give you a mobile phone. That will help you connect with the doctors. And we went in, we ran the trial project for about 3 months, and then we went back and then we interviewed the midwives and we interviewed the doctors to see whether or not communication had been improved. What do you think happened? I give people who didn't have mobile phones before a mobile phone to say, okay, can you communicate better, please? In the first instance, yes, communication improved. I can SMS the doctor, I can call the doctor, I can talk to the doctor. So we talked to the midwives. The midwives were quite positive about it. We couldn't quite tell whether it was because we gave them the mobile phones after that, so free mobile phone for them. But on the doctor's side, they said, you know what? We're actually a little bit too overwhelmed with our own work already. We can't actually take all of these calls from the midwives. This is actually a bit of a problem for us. We want to teach people how to fish, but we can't force them. I can give people mobile phones and say communicate better so that maternal health and infant mortality will drop. I can say that, but I can't force you to give time to talk to the midwives. I can't force the doctors to give time to the midwives to give advice. How do we measure that? The third, the review of the breadth of poverty, recognizing that income shortfalls often coexist with multiple non-income deprivations. I shared with you the challenge that my child in Myanmar faced when it came to her income deprivation. There was no income. Why? Because there was family issues, there were market issues, there were community issues. There are a lot more issues. It's not just solving one issue. So when you take the example of let's teach the man to fish, it might not just be teaching the man to fish, it might actually be teaching him to build a boat as well, and learn how to sail, and learn how to mend his fishing line, and learn how to sell the fish. So it's a multitude of problems that come up when it comes to the breadth of poverty. And what we're seeing is that we have 768 million poor people, with 60% of them concentrated in the Asia-Pacific region that's still existing. Poverty is not dropping. This is the statistics. You can have a look at it. What is important is the right side. Compared with the estimates, after all of the improvements, after all the numbers have been crunched, we're actually seeing that the number of the population which has been considered extremely poor remains basically unchanged. We're at 10.7%. This is the global population for poverty. It's not declining fast enough. We've got the poverty trap. I won't go through this because I think this is fairly familiar with a lot of you all. Low income, low starting point, low savings, low productivity, all of these issues. Technology progress is showing a difference between the fast-growing economies and the slow-growing ones. This is important because it actually means that poverty is not just systemic within the small community which people live in, but it's existing within the larger community as well. We're seeing the fast go faster, we're seeing the slow go slower, and we have problems with that because if it is an enablement question, what are we not doing quite right to match technology with the needs on the ground? And that's where we see 3.4. The technological trends need to align with the challenges to realize benefits. We're not actually seeing more of that. We're not seeing how, for example, there is coordinated efforts to foster social and economic inequalities. We're not seeing how digital skills are being mapped against what's required. We go in, for example, to communities and we say, let's build an internet connectivity center there. Well, is internet connectivity the only thing that the current government actually needs? This is not just a problem for the developing countries, it's also a problem for the developed countries. We see a lot of developed countries saying, we don't have enough data scientists, we don't have enough people who are doing data analytics, we don't have enough people who number crunch, we don't have enough people who are thinkers. It's a big problem. Technology solutions aren't quite matching up right now. We're still giving the fish when we should be teaching people market economics. We need to teach people how the whole entire fishing ecosystem works. We're not thinking far enough just yet. Technology and people who have been running technology haven't been thinking about that. We're seeing more to come, more of this type of disruption to come as technologies continue to transform the economy. We're going to be rethinking energy. We're going to be obviously rethinking IT and how we use it. We're going to see machines at work. We've got new building blocks of the economy right now. We've got others as well. We've got augmented reality, we've got blockchain, we've got digital identities. We've got a lot more tools at our disposal, but what are tools if we don't know how to use them? Big question. We've got application of digital tools scaling, but our ability to know how to use them lags. I'm going to read out these 15 emerging technologies, and you tell me if that's something which you're encountering, you're using, your communities are implementing right now, and see how many you hit. Cheap solar energy. Not just solar energy, but cheap solar energy. Are we deploying rural wireless communications? Are you doing anything in genetically modified crops in your projects? Are you doing anything with filters and catalysts? This is in energy. Are you doing anything for cheap and autonomous housing? Green manufacturing. Ubiquitous RFID tagging, meaning that you tag everything with an RFID tag. Hybrid vehicles. Targeted drug delivery. Improved diagnostic and surgical techniques. Quantum cryptography. This is where everybody's like, what is this? Ubiquitous information access. Tissue engineering. This is medical. Pervasive sensors. Wearable computers. My point in 3.5. While application of digital tools is scaling, while technology moves ahead, our capacity, our adaptive capacity to fight poverty with these tools lags. We're not quite there using all of this yet. We need to be prepared for this future. Right now, we're seeing that technology is empowering the lives of the poor. Let me talk about a couple of examples here. School in the Cloud is an example of a platform which allows you to learn on a cloud education platform. This is, of course, one of those platforms like Coursera, like the Khan Academy, which you're a little bit more familiar with. But School in the Cloud is interesting because I think that it's an open-sourced and free software that you can actually deploy within your own communities. So we're seeing that application of technology in the education sector is going on. We're also seeing healthcare applications going on. I've got two examples, TeleDoctor and Apollo Telemedicine there. We're seeing more people being able to be connected with technology, through technology, to doctors. Using telemedicine, it could be either connecting them with the doctor directly or connecting them with a pre-consultant or pre-medical consultant who can advise where to be sending you to. We're seeing a lot more technology being able to be put to use in access to finance. I know that in Kenya, M-Pesa has been a very, very well-known example where you use a mobile phone to do transactions of money. And this mobile phone is not a smartphone, by the way. It is one of those regular old phones, old Nokia phones that you have. You're seeing that technology is being deployed for easy access to finance. We're also seeing connectivity being improving agriculture. And agriculture is interesting. I'm going to pause a little bit here to talk about e-Chopal, which is, I believe, in India. And it links the rural farmers who are producing these agricultural products, for anything from beans to prawns, so it's agriculture and aquaculture as well, to the market, and it allows them to negotiate the prices directly. Using blockchain technology, it will not release the transaction unless the whole entire thing is verified. This actually allows you to do in the first instance, faster transaction. It also allows you to be better connected. It allows the farmers to be better connected with the marketplace directly, so the prices don't get inflated, and people, consumers who actually need the food, don't get scalped by the middlemen, the many middlemen who can come in into the process when it comes to the food value chain. So this is examples in agriculture. There are also examples where technology is transforming energy service provision. And I've got two examples here, Simpa Networks and shared solar. I'm going to talk a little bit about shared solar because when I was reading about the example, it was very exciting. Shared solar is about solar energy. It is about measuring the demand from that community of energy to give regulators, to give the government a reason to put in an electrical grid in that area. Usually, governments will say, I don't want to build an electrical grid in this area because there is no demand. Nobody wants electricity there. So shared solar goes in, builds some solar panels, and says you can pay community, you can prepay for your energy needs, and we will deliver it to you. By requesting for prepayment, they can anticipate how much demand needs to be given for energy in the first instance. And when it hits to the point where maybe solar energy can't fulfill the energy needs anymore, they raise their hands to the government and say, see, this area, this is the demand. You need to put in an electrical grid now because we can prove to you over 2 years that demand has grown to this level. So there is a reason for governments to be putting it in. So this is a really good example of where in a peri-urban area, next to the urban area, you can actually put in a technology solution that will help to drive the development of an area much better. And I've talked a little bit about e-identity, so I won't go through this again, but improving e-identity, which is core, I think, to the future. So, 3 questions for part 3. What protocols, partnerships, and practices can address the policy dilemmas and consequences of not addressing the wickedness of poverty? What can we do? What can governments and businesses do to recognize the adaptive challenges and convert them into opportunities? What can you do in your communities, in your teams? Going digital is not the solution. It's not going to solve poverty. It is a supporting foundation. How can we seize future opportunities to grow more sustainable systems in all of the areas in which we've just talked about? That's part 2. Part 4 is where I'm going to be talking about the future of work, artificial intelligence, the gig economy, and the future of work. I've got a cartoon up there that says, it's a Dilbert cartoon that says, I will take your job. That's a robot there. Is this really true? Yes and no. 4 points. Number 1, technology is challenging the traditional notions of employment and job definitions. Number 2, people are reacting with fear. But number 3, let's look at history to understand where to put this fear. Is it really something which we should be absolutely fearful about, or are we looking at just yet another wave of technological disruption? Number 4, there are 4 pressing issues that need to be addressed, there are 3 pressing issues which we'll need to be addressing. So in the first instance, technology is challenging traditional modes of employment and job definitions. I was in the Philippines a couple of months ago, and I was talking with one of my friends, or one of the audience members for our presentation that I was doing. This person came up to me and says, man, we talked about the future of work, and I can totally relate to it. My son needed to go to school, and he needed to go to what I want to do when I grow up day. And I needed to give him the costume. So I was all prepared to give him a doctor's coat or a stethoscope or whatever it is that he needs to do to demonstrate the fact that he wants to do this when he grows up. And he said, Dad, When I grow up, I want to be a YouTube star. And the guy was like, how do I do a costume for that? What do you dress up as when you're a YouTube star? What does it even mean? What is that job? Like, is it actually a job? Well, I don't know. I don't know how many of your kids are YouTube stars. But apparently people are earning a whole bunch of money from being YouTube celebrities. You've seen that, right? It might not just be YouTube, it could be other people. And we call these like social media influencers who are being paid big bucks to do whatever it is. I guess they're a marketing channel. But apparently it's a new way of life. It is a new type of job. Technology has changed the way that we view jobs right now. And the traditional job definitions, the traditional modes of employment are being disrupted. When the dot-coms first came out, everybody was blown, their minds were blown because people were saying, you know, all these new technology companies, so scandalous. They go to work in jeans. That was a new thing, right, at that point in time. Right now, everybody's like, you mean you don't allow me to go to work in jeans? That's terrible. What do you mean by I've got to wear a suit and tie? Traditional means of work, traditional modes of employment have completely changed with technology. There is an evolving work style. 63% of full-time executives, when polled, said that they would actually want to make the switch to contract work. 50% of the tasks current workers right now are paid to perform can be automated by 2055. This is quite scary. I suspect that 2055 is actually going to drop. It's actually going to be like 2030 or 2040 right now. Governments, individuals, businesses, NGOs such as World Vision, we need to start working to become more agile in responding to how technology is impacting work. It is demanding a new type of working style and a new way of monitoring that working style. Think about your colleagues. I'm assuming that some people do work from home in your teams. Think about how good that is sometimes when you need to have somebody come fix your tap, because you can say, I'm really working, I just need to be here because I need to open the door for the guy. But think about when you're trying to lead a team, you need to wrangle everybody back into the office. And people are like, well, you know, don't really want to go into the office. There is a new working style in place right now, and they'll continue to change. What we're seeing is actually digital platforms. They've challenged the location, they've challenged the mode of employment. It's now moving from a secure job in a physical office to multiple freelance jobs in various physical and virtual locations. I know that the Singapore government is looking at this very, very closely, and I think that I vaguely remember in the US as well, in the former administration, not the current administration. If you have a whole economy full of people who are working contract jobs, what happens to insurance? Who covers you? How are you going to get covered? Maybe it's time for a new way where we can actually do portable insurance. And this is what I believe the Singapore government is actually looking into right now, to prepare for the gig economy, to prepare for more contract work. How can we better protect the citizens? We'll need to be moving a lot faster and more agilely to be addressing these issues. We need to rethink employment. We need to think of the role of the workforce. This cartoon is both funny and scary at the same time, right? Yes? it is a little bit scary. You make the parts, you start wearing the parts, and then suddenly you're pretty much out of a job. What happens when people are quick to respond to the future of work? A lot of people are like, we're very afraid that we won't have jobs anymore. This is not something new. This is something which has happened in the past before. In John Maynard Keynes, in the 1930s, technological unemployment was actually a term that they used to describe the economy. There was technological unemployment. And he described it as a temporary phase of maladjustment, or where the economy wasn't adjusting too well. John F. Kennedy declared in the US that the major domestic challenge of the 1960s was to maintain full employment at a time when automation is replacing people in the workforce. So this is not something new. This is something which has come before. Technology disrupts. So we're not seeing anything new. What we need to see is, are we seeing the past repeat itself? Are we seeing the productivity growth lead to lower prices, lead to higher demand, lead to higher wages? Do you remember the first car that got made? It was made by Ford. And everybody was like, oh man, this is going to be a huge problem because it's going to be taking away all of the jobs that the carriage riders had, etc. What happened? Huge new industry was born, right? More people started wanting to travel further. More people started realizing that, hey, now there was a need for more gas. Then there was a need for rubber because there was tires and everything. So we're actually seeing disruption right now. Are we going to be seeing that sort of change happen in the future as well? One of my best friends is a pastry chef, and she works for a Michelin star restaurant. And I always ask her, why Michelin star? What's with Michelin? Michelin makes those tires, right? And she said, go read about it. And I went to read about it like a good girl, and apparently the Michelin Guide was developed by the Michelin tires because they wanted people to travel further to eat good food so that the tires would wear out, so that you'd buy more tires. That's why the Michelin Guide. Are we seeing this sort of range of developments happen in the economy with this changing nature of work? The question that I have to put towards you is, what's different this time? What's different this time is the pace of change. It's a lot faster. You're getting all of this automation happening faster and faster and faster. Are we able to keep up? The second thing, and this is the more profound thing, it's actually going to impact not the agricultural jobs. It's actually going to happen to the middle class. It's going to happen to the middle class, which is not going to be happy to be disrupted. These are jobs like lower jobs, which are middle class jobs. These are jobs like auditor jobs, middle class jobs. What's going to happen when all of these are automated? We're seeing that the next wave of automation is absolutely coming, and we're not quite prepared for it just yet. How are we seeing some jobs being changed? Let me give you an example of robot lawyers. And people have actually encountered some form of that, inverted commas, robot lawyers, because there are all these chatbots right now. Have you used chatbots before? If you go onto a website on the corner, something that says chat with us. You're not quite sure whether you're chatting with a human being or a real thing. I was recently in the Narita airport, and the Narita airport, if you connect to their Wi-Fi, they actually do have a chatbot that talks with you. And it's quite good because I recently asked it, where is Uniqlo? It says, hold on, let me tell you. And then it told me where Uniqlo was. In the future, a lot of the work that is done menially by middle-class jobs are going to be automated, and they're going to be taken away so that you can do higher level skills. So for example, having the human touch with clients will take away all of the filing court requirements. All of that can be automated by AI. But you can actually talk to the clients, have a personal relationship with them. How are we going to be responding to these challenges? It's going to be boosting productivity, but it may actually change the nature of your job. You might not actually be ready for it just yet. Where we're seeing also some challenges and some lessons learned from the gig economy can be seen from Uber, for example. In this case, every driver is their own business. If every driver is their own business, and yet is disrupting the regular business of doing business in the taxi industry, and the government say, as in this case, they actually banned Uber in London, the Uber drivers actually protested, saying that you're actually taking away our jobs. Are we prepared for that level of disruption? Are we prepared for that level of change when it comes to the gig economy? Do we does government enforce existing laws, or do we overturn the fundamentals and say, this is a new way of doing things? And if we do say this is a new way of doing things, how can we change? So this is a challenge to the one-size-fits-all approach to regulation that governments are doing. Society needs to be benefiting from the changes in technology as a whole. Policymakers need to tackle 3 issues with urgency. The first is to create jobs at the same time as workers being displaced by machines. We need to prepare, we need to recalibrate the workforce. Are our programs doing that? Are we ready to do that? The challenge number 2 is to manage ethical concerns and rising pushback. Machines aren't able to think. Ethics are being put into machines, and these are often invisible. One of the best examples that I have for the invisible nature of the philosophy and the ethics of technology is, you know, your watches, the smart watches that you have, the Fitbits that you have? I think some of you actually have them, right? They measure, what do they measure? Heart rate, number of steps that you walk. What else do they measure?
Sleeping pattern.
Sleeping patterns, thank you. Now, somebody actually told me, and I was at a women's conference, somebody actually told me, you know what, if the Fitbit or all of these, you know, technology, smartwatch devices had been designed in the first instance by a woman, you know what it would have included? Menstrual cycles. I was like, oh, that's true. I mean, that's a very important part of female health. But it's being built in as sort of like, oh, well, it's a nice add-on to have. So this is one of the ways in